and they're available in different languages, one of them being Spanish. But what we find is that they are only available online, and thus we do not have access to them. And this makes it difficult because some community partners that we found have printed some out and made it available to the community, but it's not necessarily enough, and it doesn't reach the right amount of people to be able to have access to this. And lastly, what we noted is that of the people that have been interviewed so far who have their actual driver's licenses, all of them had, in some type of format, access to the study manual. I am a double major in Justice and Peace. Shout out for Justice and Peace in the house. And American Studies. And my focus is on labor and immigration. And so this is what eventually brought my interest to this research project. And before I even started working with Professor Gillespie, the research, I was in the Calmanovitz's Initiative program, the Labor Exchange Program. And in it, just going out and talking to day laborers, we heard a lot of stories about the driver's license and about the lack of access that day laborers had to it. Those stories were foreign to me because back home, that's how my community lives, and that's how the majority of my family is under undocumented status. And so I knew most of those difficulties and challenges because I saw my family undergo them on an everyday basis. Taking back this issue, I drew a lot of connections because earlier this year, February 2nd, AB 60 passed, Senator Cedillo helped pass it, and that's a bill that helped the driver's license in the state of California. And this was important, very important, because it would mean that it would change the life of many of my community members and my family. And so the last I heard was that my family was in the process of applying to request the driver's licenses. And then in early May, I started working with Professor Gillespie, and as I sat down in interviews and heard people and people's stories, I started to draw connections back home and just wonder about how the system was over there, if they were facing the same challenges, or if they were having the same lack of ability to access those services, or if there was anyone working as we were working here to help improve the system, or if there was any errors in the system. And luckily, by the end of the summer, I got the opportunity to go back home. And to my surprise, my brother picked me up in the new family car. And he was very excited driving, and he drove me home. And I spent 2 weeks there, and my mom works. Commuting to her job used to take 2 to 3 hours, and now it took 30 minutes. My brother drives her to work and picks her up. That means that she had more time to spend time with her favorite human. And that was really, really incredible for me. It's just a difference. My uncle driving, he felt more confident in the wheel, no longer the necessity of seeing or trying to figure out where drunk driver police stations were or checkpoints were, because you don't need that anymore. If you all don't know, in my community, if we see a checkpoint, instant messages all over the place. Do not go through these streets, avoid them. And just that, simply the fact that we were able to move on that and have more confidence being behind the wheel and driving our streets and taking our kids to work, taking their kids to work, it just makes a whole difference. As I said, it changes people's life. And this is why this research is so important. Because we have to better the system to make undocumented DC residents have access to driver's licenses. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be able to do research under an incredible professor, because it allowed me to make connections with back home and here and see how I can proactively work to improve them.
So that was awesome. I'm studying political economy in the College of Georgetown, and I decided that last year after a lot of thought. But my motivation in doing so, though of course there are many, is partly to be better equipped to study the issue of immigration. Because I discovered during the same period of introspection that that's a really interesting issue to me. I think it's really important. I think it touches on a lot of things that are really important: our policy, our identity as a country, economics, which I just find interesting, communication, just pretty much infinite things. So when I made that decision, I knew that to study political economy, I knew that I was going to get a great, academic foundation for approaching policy and approaching immigration issues, but I also knew that I was going to, be neglecting the actual human side of those issues unless I took some sort of initiative to not do that. And so that's partly why I got involved in the Day Labor Exchange program at the Cal Benefits Initiative. And that in turn led me to this opportunity. So, and now this is going back to the chaos. So it's all kind of a big circle. But really, I'm just extremely thankful that coincidentally all came together. Because I think, before this project, I don't think I fully understood what research was. I think we all talk about it, but maybe we don't explain it, or we don't break down the processes and the details and the ups and downs. And I think also before this project, I didn't fully understand, and it's impossible to, but I really didn't understand what the issues I'm interested in look like on a community level. So how it is, how it feels to be an immigrant, or how it feels to struggle with, government or policy as an actual individual who's impacted by those policies. And so on that level, this experience has also been, critical for me. Because I don't have the personal experience, of coming from these issues. But, I still want to work on them. And so something like this has just been absolutely invaluable because the focus of our research, as Deanna spoke to, in our methodology section is the community. It's community-based. It's about privileging other people's accounts over our own. And that's, that's exactly what the community needs, and incidentally, it's exactly what I needed. So people talk about specializing, and I feel like I didn't know what specializing was until I became a research assistant. I know so much about this license, but it's been a really great experience for me in innumerable ways, and I highly recommend researching, even if when you start you don't know what that means.